In this lesson, we're going to finish up animating our 3D text. Okay, so we're right here where we left off with our actually statement. And now let's just listen to what he says next. So hit the period key to listen.
Actually, the largest threat to the existence of coral.
So we have a little bit of a long statement here. So he says, are actually the largest threat to the existence of coral. And I think just because he says that doesn't mean that we have to write all of those words. So we can just write are actually the largest threat to coral. The existence of coral is just kind of thrown in there. So let's go ahead and block out that text and just get our typography looking good. So we'll type in the word threat, or actually let's go ahead and do the largest. And then let's do another piece of text that's just the next line down. And then we'll do another one that just says to coral. So this just makes it a little bit easier by breaking those onto different lines, just to adjust the line weight and to adjust the space between those lines. Now I'd like to switch back over to DIN for this, so I'm going to just select all those pieces and we'll type in PF-DIN. And I'm just going to go with medium for now, and we can change it more if we need to. I'm going to also make these all caps, just so it's easier to block them out. You don't have any trouble with the descenders being too long. So we'll make this a little bit bigger. And I just want these to all be the same line length as the are actually text. But it's going to bump it down pretty considerably just because threat is all on one line. We can make this a left alignment if you want the scaling of the text to go a little bit faster. So now it's always going to stay exactly where you want it on that left side. Let's bring this down a little bit. And then our to coral text, let's left align that as well. And bump that up there to make it a little bit bigger. Give it a little bit of space. Maybe move this over to the left just a bit for both of those. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and see what happens when we scrub that. Okay, so this isn't 3D text yet, so let's go ahead and switch on the 3D switch for those. And I'm going to take it down or bring my camera up just so my camera remains on top. 3D switch. Go ahead and rotate those on the Z-axis. And now we have to move everything back around again, so that's okay. It also looks like it's a little bit bigger than before just because we're zoomed in more, so we can probably just adjust those pixels. Let's do a left alignment for this one just so it's the same as the other ones. Just like that. And they were pretty close, so we don't have too much to adjust. Just bring that back in there. And probably we'll have to adjust the size of the coral because that L is going to stick out. So I'm going to just go ahead and bring that in there now. Not the best letter to end on when we have such a straight line, but that's okay. We'll deal with it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and figure out what we want our camera to do. So I'm just going to hold Control and scrub. Okay, so right about here where he starts to say the largest, I want it to zoom in on this text. So I'm going to go ahead and set a position keyframe. And then let's give it about 10 frames to get there. We'll just zoom in. Scoot this back over so it's in the middle. Maybe not zoomed in quite that far. Let's just go ahead and align it the same way we did for our other, so it's on the inside of this box. Just adjusting those values to kind of center this. So the largest threat, and then let's see where he finishes up saying to coral.
Threat to the existence of coral.
Right about there. So then we can just move down. Just like that. So it's kind of going to be zooming and then scrolling.
Actually, the largest threat to the existence of coral.
Great. So let's go ahead now and maybe change up our colors a little bit. This all feels very similar. So I think we could change threat to be that red color, just because, again, it's like kind of a more negative word, so we can change that. And then let's change to coral to the blue color, kind of, or really more the teal. And if you wanted to, we could change our actually to just to show off all of those colors. Let's change that to that navy. Now I'd like to fade these on, the largest threat to coral, kind of over time. So let's go ahead and add some opacity keyframes to those with the timing of our script. So right about here is when he starts to say the largest. So let's go ahead and hit the T key for this. Let's just begin it right there where we're going to start it. Take that down to 0. And I'm going to have it go all the way to 100 just before he finishes the word.
Actually, the largest.
And then right here we'll start to have threat come on. Let's bring that back. Hit the T key. Take it down to 0.
Largest threat.
Bring that back just a bit. So it's about the same amount of time for those.
Actually, the largest threat.
And right about here, we can have the coral statement coming on. Let's just copy and paste those keyframes to save some time. Select them, hit Control-C, select your two coral layer, Control-V, hit the U key or the T key to bring that up. It looks like that's actually beginning at 1%, so let's take that all the way down to 0, and let's make sure this one, since we copied it, this one's fixed as well. Okay, that looks pretty good. Perfect.
Largest threat to the existence of coral.
Great. So this is looking really good. I think now all we need to do is go back in here and add some ease to our camera movement so everything's not so harsh. Now, I think it's fine to have this first one as a linear keyframe, but let's go ahead and make this second one here where we really ease into it. So to add an easy ease to a keyframe, you can use the keyboard shortcut F9, or you can always go through Animation, Keyframe Assistant, and choose Easy Ease from here. Now, I want it to be a little more eased than just what you get naturally with that. So I'm going to come in here to my graph editor. We'll zoom in a little bit further. And we want to pull this handle back. So it's going to be faster at the beginning and then really start to slow out. I didn't pull it back all the way, just a little bit. So really start to slow in. And right here where we say our actually, let's really slowly move to that one. Now, I don't think that the position needs a lot of tweaking. We can go ahead and give it an easy ease, but the orientation I'd like to give a super ease to. So we'll go ahead and select that orientation key, hit F9, go into our graph editor, and we'll pull that backwards. Again, I didn't pull it back all the way. So really, really slowly just comes into this. And then we'll start to ease out of this keyframe. So these both, I think we can have quite a bit of ease on. So let's go ahead, select them both. We'll hit F9. I think that looks pretty good. And then let's just go ahead and come to our last keyframe, and we'll give this one a super ease. So select it, hit F9, and we'll go back into our graph editor and pull that out. Let's listen to it.
The largest threat to the existence of coral. At the present.
Perfect. So let's go ahead and just watch a RAM preview of the whole thing all put together. I'm going to hit the N key just to crop the work area.
Humans and our activities are actually the largest threat to the existence of coral.
Now, this orientation movement looks like it might be a little bit fast, but I think part of that is because we don't have motion blur turned on for these layers. So let's go ahead and tweak that. Just select all of your text layers. We'll turn on motion blur, and you want to turn on the enable motion blur for all layers switch, and we'll do another RAM preview. And sometimes that can fix that if it just looks way too fast.
Humans and our activities are actually the largest threat to the existence of coral. At the present,
I think maybe this first orientation keyframe, having an easy ease on that will help. I'm going to hit F9. Let's watch that.
Humans and our activities are actually the largest threat to the existence of coral. Humans and our activities are
Okay, let's see. I think we need to change the timing up just a bit because this still feels really fast here. So what I'm going to do, I don't want it to begin any sooner because we're still saying humans in our activity. So we probably want to pull those orientation keys and therefore those position keys to a little bit later in time. Let's just listen to it a little bit more.
Humans and our activities are
right about here. Let's just go ahead and select all of these and pull it forward. And then we'll bring these forward as well.
Activities are actually the largest threat to the existence of coral.
Perfect. So that really didn't change anything too awfully much, except everything looks better now. So I think our actually starts to fade on maybe a little too soon as it is. So let's just pull that forward and pull that forward as well. So that's much, much better. Let's go ahead and hit the 0 key on our number pad.
Humans and our activities are actually the largest threat to the existence of coral.
Perfect.
At the present rate,
so just tweaking that timing ever so slightly really made a difference on just having that just reveal as it's being said and also not feeling like it's happening too quickly. And by taking out to the existence of really also helps to make this not feel so heavy with way too much text. So I'm glad that we decided just to only use threat to coral instead of threat to the existence of coral. All right, so now that we have this text animation finished, we're ready to move on to the next part of our script. So let's just do a quick preview to listen to that. I'm going to hit the period key on my number pad.
Coral. At the present rate of destruction, 70% of coral reefs may be gone in less than 40 years.
Okay, so we have quite a bit of time here to talk about this next statistic. So I think we could do something really interesting while we're still in this 3D comp. So we're going to learn how to show that statistic and then also transition to more of a storytelling type of comp that's not necessarily showing so much information, but really just more of an animation that kind of is just describing what the narrator is saying. It's not just showing it so blatantly like the text does. So we're going to learn how to do that in our next lesson.